The boxing world is mourning the loss of Ricky Hatton, the former world champion whose name became synonymous with grit, loyalty, and an unmatched bond with fans. Hatton, who died at the age of 46, was remembered by friends, family, and fellow fighters in an outpouring of tributes that reflected not only his accomplishments in the ring, but also the authenticity of his character. Among the most powerful tributes came from David Haye, the former heavyweight champion and one of Hatton's contemporaries. Speaking with raw emotion, Haye described Hatton as a brother in this sport, adding that Hatton defined what being a champion truly means. For Haye, Hatton's greatness was not measured solely by titles or victories, but by qualities rarely listed on record books: humility, kindness, loyalty, and the unrelenting grit that endeared him to millions. Hatton's body was discovered by his longtime manager, Paul Speak, after he failed to appear at a scheduled boxing event. Greater Manchester Police confirmed that there were no suspicious circumstances surrounding his death. The news sent shockwaves through the sporting community, particularly as Hatton had been preparing for a return to the ring with a scheduled fight in Dubai later in the year. For many, the suddenness of the news magnified the grief. Hatton was not a retired champion quietly living in the background. He was still active, still connected to the sport, still embraced by a loyal fan base that never stopped chanting his name. His death brought home the fragility of life even for those who seemed larger than life. Haye took to social media and later spoke with the press, recalling Hatton's intensity, generosity, and honesty. He wasn't perfect, but he was real, honest to the core, Haye wrote. He remembered watching Hatton train and fight, giving everything he had every time he stepped into the ring. Beyond the sporting achievements, Haye reflected on the bond they shared as fighters of the same era. He spoke about the many nights they spent together around the world, moments of camaraderie, shared struggles, and the kind of brotherhood known only to those who have lived the punishing life of professional boxing. He was not the type of man to live a quiet, ordinary life, Haye said. He was always going to give everything of himself, whether in the ring, with friends, or with fans. In one particularly striking passage, Haye likened Hatton to a warrior from another age. He would have been that kind of man who, in another era, might have stood on the battlefield with an axe. I would have been proud to stand beside him. Haye added, in words that resonated widely, that he believed Hatton is now up there, pint in hand, saving me a seat for when my time comes. Haye's tribute drew widespread praise, not only for its candor, but for capturing what so many felt: that Hatton's life and career were defined by authenticity. His statement, "He wasn't perfect, but he was real," has already become one of the most repeated lines in tributes, resonating because it reflects the way fans and colleagues alike saw Hatton. The boxing community responded immediately and emotionally to both Hatton's death and Haye's tribute. Amir Khan called Hatton a friend, mentor, and warrior, stressing that Hatton's legacy extended far beyond the belts he won. Promoters and trainers echoed similar sentiments, pointing out that Hatton's ability to connect with ordinary people made him unique among champions. Floyd Mayweather Jr., who defeated Hatton in their 2007 clash in Las Vegas, acknowledged the energy Hatton brought to every fight and how his fans transformed boxing events into cultural spectacles. Manny Pacquiao, who fought Hatton in 2009, remembered him as a true competitor whose courage was unquestionable. Frank Warren, who promoted Hatton in the early years of his career, said Hatton possessed a rare gift: the ability to unite people. Fans felt like they were with him, not just watching him, Warren said. That's why he will never be forgotten. Hatton's son, Campbell, released a heartbreaking statement saying, "I looked up to my dad in every aspect of life. I'll miss our laughs, our times together, and I can't believe there won't be more of those moments." Campbell, who is pursuing his own career in boxing, spoke of his father as both a role model and a friend, underlining the deep personal loss behind the public tributes. Hatton's family also issued a collective message, describing him as more than a champion. They spoke of his humor, loyalty, and warmth. "He had a heart as big as his smile," the family said, emphasizing that while the world knew him as the hitman, they knew him as a devoted father, son, and friend. Ricky Hatton's career was nothing short of remarkable. He rose to prominence with his victory over Kostya Chu in 2005, capturing the light welterweight world title in a performance that still ranks among the great nights of British boxing. He went on to campaign in both the light welterweight and welterweight divisions, facing elite opponents including Paulie Malignaggi, Floyd Mayweather, and Manny Pacquiao. Hatton's record, 45 wins and 3 defeats, speaks to his skill, but his popularity transcended the numbers. Few fighters in history have mobilized fans as Hatton did. Tens of thousands of supporters traveled from Manchester and beyond to watch him fight abroad, famously turning Las Vegas into a temporary home for British boxing. The songs, the chants, and the sheer passion of his following became as much a part of his legacy as his victories. Yet Hatton's impact was not limited to the ring. His openness about personal struggles, including depression and addiction, made him even more relatable. He showed that even champions are vulnerable, and in doing so, he became a symbol of resilience for many. For those closest to him, Hatton was more than just a fighter. Friends described his loyalty, his humor, and his ability to light up a room. Fans remembered him as approachable, always willing to stop for a photo or a chat. To Manchester, he was not just a sports star but a representative of the city's spirit, tough, unpretentious, and proud. In this way, Haye's words captured what many already felt. Hatton's legacy will not be defined only by championship belts or memorable fights, but by his authenticity. He wasn't perfect, but he was real, Haye said, and it is perhaps that reality, the mix of triumphs and flaws, that makes Hatton's story so enduring. The grief following Hatton's death is palpable across boxing, but Haye's tribute provided a language for many who struggled to articulate their feelings. His message acknowledged the complexity of Hatton's life, the highs and lows, and framed them as part of a larger story of resilience, loyalty, and honesty. For many fans, the final goodbye to Ricky Hatton is not only about losing a champion but also about recognizing what he gave to the sport and to the people who loved him. His death has sparked reflection on what it truly means to be remembered. Not just as a winner, but as someone who was genuine, approachable, and loyal to the very end. Haye's tribute, widely shared and quoted, may stand as the definitive farewell message to Hatton. It has been embraced not only by fans but by colleagues across the sport as a summation of who Hatton was: a fighter, a friend, a brother, and above all, a real man. As the boxing world mourns, one truth is clear. Ricky Hatton's name, his story, and his spirit will endure. In the words of David Haye, he wasn't perfect, but he was real, and that reality may be the most lasting legacy of all.